I have decided to just talk about a group that formed in 2010, but they made it really, really, really big in 2012 with their debut album, Night Visions. And of course, we're talking tonight about Imagine Dragons. Bill, this is Bill's forte right here. Bill, why don't you go off first?
Okay, but Imagine Dragons will always hold a special place in my heart.
Yep.
And the reason being is because they were actually my first concert.
Awesome. Okay.
I remember the date too.
What was it, Bill?
March 1st, 2014, at the Mohegan Sun Arena.
Wow. A little while ago, but yes, go on.
In New Canesville, Connecticut. I think that's how you say it.
I don't know how it's said, but whatever.
All you lovely folks in the great state of Connecticut, you know how you say that. So
yes, of course.
I apologize for butchering. But anyway, they sort of that 2010s, type,
Pop rock
music. It was they really got big in 2013 with, of course, their big hits known as Radioactive, whoa, I'm radioactive.
That was a big hit. It broke a record at the time for one of the biggest singles ever to chart the Hot 100. It really lasted longer than Jason Mraz's "I'm Yours" in the Hot 100. It lasted for 87 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100.
You know what? I have to say this. You know who that's a favorite song of?
Who?
"I'm Yours." Go ahead, take a wild guess.
Is it Justin Favaro? Or is it Dr. Matt Hemsley?
It's Dr. Matt Hemsley.
I tried.
It's Dr. Hemsley. Anyway, but no, Imagine Dragons. I first heard them, actually, my brother actually introduced me to them.
Uh-huh.
And he said, yeah, there's this band. They're called Imagine Dragons. And it was when that song Radioactive was just blowing up on the station, the radio station. He's like, yeah, there's this new band. They're called Imagine Dragons. Well, new-ish.
Yeah.
But I started really getting into them, and they're a nice pop rock band.
Mm-hmm.
They have a nice, I think that's how best you would describe their sound, pop rock. Is that right?
I would say so. I mean, a pop rock, alternative rock, that's probably my wheelhouse with that, I would say.
Yep. And yeah, so I really like, and also a lot of their other songs. We got to talk about their other songs besides Radioactive.
Of course. They have plenty of other great songs too.
I really love It's Time.
Oh, that's a great one.
It's time to begin. Is it in?
I love that one.
I'm never changing who I am. On Top of the World.
I'm on top of the world, eh? I'm on top of the world, eh?
When I went to go see them in concert, my first concert, I remember when they played that song, they had these big balls of confetti. Get your minds out of the gutter. Balls of confetti just dropped through the ceiling and they just popped open. And they just popped open. And it was just all over the place. It was great. I would say On Top of the World is probably my favorite Imagine Dragons song. I don't know. I'll give you the list in a minute. But what I also like is what's it called?
Thunder?
Demons.
Oh, Demons is good too. Yeah.
No, but if you move on but now Thunder's really good.
Oh, that's a good one too, yeah.
Thunder, hear the thunder.
Lightning and the thunder.
But when I went to go see their first concert, them as my first concert, I was really starting to like a lot of their earlier stuff, like their pre-Radioactive stuff too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there's a song, it's called Tiptoe.
Oh, yep. I know that one.
I never know we're coming. Hey, yeah, tiptoe higher, brace yourself. Stick your head with your head down low. Yeah, yeah, tiptoe higher. Because JT, nobody else could take me higher. Nobody else.
Woo! Bill's on fire tonight, kids.
That is a good song, and I don't care what anyone else says.
Exactly.
And also another very underrated song by Imagine Dragons. It's called "The River."
That's actually a really good one too. Yeah.
They go, "I bathed in the river for everyone else, but for everyone but myself."
Oh wow.
Yeah, and there's a song called "Fallen." Yeah, some religious themes here because Dan Reynolds, and I don't know if the rest of the band is, but Dan Reynolds is a Mormon.
Yeah, I mean, well, it doesn't Vegas have a big Mormon?
Nevada's near Utah, so
Right, of course.
Geography with Bill.
Geography with Bill.
Yeah, but anyway, but no, it's so weird because we talked about this last week. You know how a lot of these alternative bands, their lead singers are Mormon. Brendan Flowers of the Killers, Brendan Urie from Panic at the Disco. You said he's Mormon, right?
Yes, as far as I know, yep.
And the guy from Neon Trees, the lead singer, the guy goes, "Everybody talks too much." He's Mormon.
That guy.
So yeah, I don't know what causes Mormons to get into alternative rock. I really don't know. But once you think about it, and I was thinking about this last week with the Killers, and even with Imagine Dragons, with both of those bands. Once you think about it, dude, their music is relatively clean.
And what do you mean by clean? Like sound wise, or lyric?
Not a lot of swearing, not a lot of.
Oh yeah, no, that actually is a very true point. Actually, I mean,
bands like Killers and Imagine Dragons, like
there's no explicit language.
There's not a lot of swearing. There's not a lot of sexual content.
It's very clean for the most part.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not like oh god, it's not like more. It's not more like heavy driven like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's more like pop rock in a sense, but the alternative rock part does play into them. So,
you know what song when I saw them? You know what song they actually closed with? Not Radioactive. That was the second to last song. They actually closed with a song called, and I think it's very perfect to end this show with. "There's Nothing Left to Say."
Oh yeah, that's actually
There's nothing left to say now.
That's a good one.
I think that's a good one to end the show because there's
nothing left to say.
Because there's nothing left to say. There's nothing left to say now.
Exactly. So
there's nothing left to say. It's the end of the show. Thank you. Good night. But yeah, but you know what? First, I actually want to dedicate this segment to my very dear friend, Miss Allie Wiener, because she is a big Imagine Dragons fan. We all remember Miss Allie. She's made a few appearances, and she might be here next week.
Yes, we'll have to see, of course, but yes.
And the mysterious woman I may or may not marry in Vegas.
Oh, boy.
Anyway. Yeah, but
Imagine Dragons.
But I have those because I have a very dear friend of mine who hates Imagine Dragons.
Oh, really? Okay.
My friend, you remember my friend Vinny?
Yep, not your cousin Vinny? That's a bad joke. Sorry.
No, I do not have a cousin named Vinny.
It was a joke, Phil. Because the movie.
I know.
Sorry, I had to. Anyways, but Vinny doesn't like him?
No, he doesn't like them. And I have another friend who said that Imagine Dragons has basically become American Nickelback.
I mean, they're pretty popular, though,
Yeah, but you know what? Have you noticed they kind of, I'll be honest, I don't know if I'm too crazy about their newer stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Enemy came out, and it's like, oh, wow, but outside of that, they've got, like, Follow You, Bones, The whole Mercury Act stuff it's good for what it is, but to me, it's like their fourth or fifth album. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I don't know. I just haven't been too crazy about their newer stuff.
yeah,
I
I mean, it's not.
like it,
No, of course, it's just it's changing.
and
They're evolving.
so is change relatively good, or
I mean, don't bands need to evolve into other things too? If you think about it.
once you think about it, you're right.
So, I mean, and someone once said that Imagine Dragons was the biggest rock act to emerge in 2011 or 12. I mean, they are huge. They just sold out a stadium. I forget what the stadium was called, but in Vegas, they sold out a huge stadium. Huge
Allegiant Stadium.
That's what it was. Yes. They just sold that out. So, yes, it's Vegas. It's their home territory, but at the same time, it's like you forget how big artists get so quickly nowadays. And we'll talk about that too when we get to a couple of artists as well. So, but Imagine Dragons, I mean, I like them.
They're still helping rock hold on once you think about it.
Bill, do not get me started. Rock is not dead. Just saying. It's really not.
Tell me rock is dead.
Well, can I share with you my argument for that?
You may.
Okay. So full disclosure, I know we're getting off a quick side tangent, but we're going to go to some other stuff in a second. But
rock tangents are fun.
Yes. The argument that's saying that rock is dead is people under the assumption that like it's not the mainstream. So it might not be the mainstream popularity, but by saying it's dead, what you're saying, if you really think about it and break it down, is that shows, rock acts in general, whether it be the Killers, it could be Metallica, it could be U2, it could be any of the old classic rock artists, it could be the Foo Fighters, it could be whatever, Def Leppard. So you're saying that no one goes to those shows, no one's listening to that music, and no one is supporting those types of bands anymore, period. That is by default dead, meaning inactive. That's the argument that I hear. And when I hear that, I'm like, well, just because something doesn't chart in the Hot 100 anymore doesn't mean it's dead. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. The Killers, we just saw the Killers at Madison Square Garden. Every single night.
They sold out Madison Square Garden, folks.
Yeah, they've been around for they've been around for 20 years. But the fact that they can still sell out, even though they're a relatively young act, that just shows how people are drawn to this music. I mean, I didn't tell this part, Bill. I was sitting next to a guy at the Killers show where he followed them on this tour. So
yeah, I think he told me this. Like, and they were just getting ready to go to Boston.
And they literally were taking the train up to Boston to see him in Boston too. They literally followed them from Chicago to New York. And then he said, I have friends that saw them in Tennessee. So for the people who say that rock is dead, I'd like to point out that you're wrong and simply say that by saying that it's dead, meaning that no one goes to the My Chemical Romance tour that's happening. It's a huge success. No one's going to that, right? But right, Bill? No one's going to see it.
No one's going to that. Well, a very dear friend of mine actually just saw them in concert.
Exactly my point. No one's going to see Green Day anymore on whenever they tour and sold out everywhere they go. No one's going to see Motley Crue, Metallica, Def Leppard, Bruce Springsteen, U2, Journey. Rock is dead. No one cares. No one goes to the shows anymore. No one supports the music. There's no monthly listeners on Spotify. It's all dead. By saying you're dead, that's what you mean. So rock is not dead. It's just not the center of the cultural moment. As it was.
Hey, JT, it's me, typical 2010s frat guy with a sideways hat. I just want to say, rock is totally dead. We listen to EDM now. That's real freaking music. Music that's made by machines that we get drunk and have the best sex ever to. And we take so much ecstasy when we listen to it, man. It's awesome. So rock is dead. EDM is so alive.
Thank you for playing the stereotypical idiot, Bill.
I'm sorry. Was that my friend sideways hat 2010 frat guy?
That was that guy. Yeah. But yeah.
I hate that guy. I really do. He's an idiot.
He's an idiot. But like,
I locked my door. He's not coming back.
Good. Well, my point is, ladies, we're gonna get to other artists in a second too that are not just rock artists, but like there's other, just because it's not the center of the cultural moment. Like, hello, you can like it or hate it, but Machine Gun Kelly's past 2 records were pop punk, Bloody Valentine, and they charted the Hot 100. Yeah. So, take that, all you naysayers.
Yeah, Machine Gun Kelly, I'm sure we'll talk about him because he went through a big style change.
Yeah, well, his first pop punk album was in 2020, so that's we won't really touch on that, but still, you know what I mean. But bottom line, rock is not dead. It's just not the center, at least in the United States. If you look up the mainstream music, the mainstream music in Australia, South America, and Europe, it's rock and roll music, regardless of how old it is or how new it is. It's all rock and roll. A band like The Killers can sell it anywhere in Europe. A band like Muse can sell it anywhere in Europe, South America, even parts of Asia. Bryan Adams is the same way. So in the United States, it's like I feel like the rest of the world is looking at the U.S. saying, "You guys are idiots by listening to Drake." That's the way I look at that. So,
but that's the motto, JT. That yo, that's the motto. That's the motto.
But that's my point. Is that like I feel like the United. We're going off on a big tangent. Forgive me, but I feel like the U.S. is looked at as oh, how could they let rock and roll slip? But in reality, 2/3 of their audiences are across the planet, like Australia, South America, like the Rock in Rio and like Brazil. There's 150,000 people there to see Red Hot Chili Peppers. Come on, rock is dead, right? Yeah, totally. It's dead. It's dead, right? That would mean that the music, no one listens to the music. No one is supporting the music. No one's buying it. Nothing's charting on the Billboard 200. Imagine Dragons has had their past 4 or 5 albums chart number 1. Green Day, Blink-182. These are all bands. Red Hot Chili Peppers, same thing.
We got other stuff to get to, but before we get to that, anything you'd have to say to my friend who just left back, sideways hat, 2010 frat guy?
Yes.
What would you like to say to him?
Get off my show. You're not invited. Not you, but your friend.
Yeah, my friend who, don't worry, my door is locked. He's not coming back.
So bottom line, rock is not dead. It's just not the center of the cultural moment right now. It could come back at any given point in the U.S., but still. So to all our listeners across the globe, we love you. Go support that rock and roll music. Drums, bass, guitar, and vocals. Drums, bass, guitar, and vocals, kids. And maybe the piano too.